I'm live from Louisville, where Nebraska volleyball lost in dramatic, ultra heartbreaking fashion in the Final Four. You used to that, Husker Nation. We'll talk football too, coming up.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, welcome. It is Friday. Connor Happer from 1620 The Zone back in Nebraska, and Mitch Sherman from The Athletic in Louisville, Kentucky. An exciting weekend upcoming for Mitch, but he got a heck of a treat last night watching the two volleyball games that he did, and that's basically where we'll start. Nebraska volleyball. If you went to bed when it was 2-0, you're waking up today with a bit of a rude awakening as Nebraska got reverse swept in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1982. There was a stat going on in the that they flashed up when Nebraska took a 2-0 lead that said Nebraska is something like 103-0 in the NCAA tournament when up 2-0. Yes, 103 straight postseason wins when up 2-0, and lost last night to Penn State, who, I mean, amazingly found a way to win. I guess it was the fourth set when Nebraska had him on the ropes, down up 22-16. I mean, a wild game that unfortunately Nebraska came out on the wrong side of.
Yeah, I think that's where you have to start with Penn State. I mean, people on social media last night were upset that Nebraska had 2 match points in that fourth set, that Nebraska went on a long run in the middle of that fourth set and had a 22-16 lead. Look, if you can go on a long run against a great team, you can give up a run against a great team. And Penn State went on an 8-2 run when it was 22-16. It was tied at 24, and then they fought, and Penn State pulled it out, much like in the first match, which was in some ways even more dramatic than the Nebraska-Penn State match. Now, it didn't go 5, and the host team, Louisville, beat Pitt in 4. And Louisville and Danny Busboom Kelly, a tiny bit of solace for Nebraska fans. The ex-Nebraska player, ex-Nebraska assistant, native of the state of Nebraska, Danny Busboom Kelly, will try to become the first female head coach in NCAA women's volleyball history, or NCAA volleyball history, to win a national championship. There is going to be a female head coach because Katie Schumacher-Cauley of Penn State is going to be on the other side on Sunday in Louisville. But that match was even more dramatic in some way because Louisville's best player got hurt at the start of the fourth set against Pitt, which is just a machine. Pitt is more talented physically than Nebraska. I can say that for certain after watching those two up close last night. So I was sitting like directly behind the chair official on the floor in the front row of the media row. I don't know if that was the best seat in the house or the worst seat in the house, because I had a lot of ESPN TV cameras that were darting in front of me. It's possible that the NCAA dramatically overestimated the value of my coverage, but they gave me a great seat, and I saw those teams up close. Nebraska wanted no part of Pitt. I mean, I'm sure it would have been a great match, and it's too bad they can't play for third place, but Pitt was incredibly talented. And, much like Nebraska, you're going to see multiple players from Pitt on the Olympic team pretty soon.
Yeah, one thing that I would always suggest to people is, if you at all can, get close to the experience that you had watching that match last night. Be as close as you possibly can. Understand the physicality, understand how difficult it is, the reaction, the quickness, all that stuff, and the talent. Obviously, it really is amazing because we had the 4 best teams in the country in the Final Four, and Nebraska, both of the teams that lost last night, Pitt, Nebraska. I mean, they look like they were on a collision course to be in the national championship game together. So that just goes to show you the like obviously the talent at both of the other teams who ended up winning the matches last night, Louisville and Penn State, but also it kind of shows you the randomness as well. Like you said, you go on runs and at a certain point it's sort of hard to stop the bleeding. For Nebraska in the fifth, it was just sort of hard to stop the bleeding for them.
The momentum at the end of the fourth was just so significant. Yeah,
they never really got it. Never got it patched up after that. But my goodness, and so there will be a lot talked about today. I mean, I think I was sort of mentally preparing myself for getting ready to crown that team as whatever it was in Nebraska lore with the class that is exiting, led by Lexi Rodriguez, who's been here all 4 years, but in Lindsey Krause and Kennedy Orr, but Merritt Beeson, who's come in to the program later as well. Getting ready to sort of have that discussion today on my show and on this show, and it's a different topic for sure.
Yeah, that would have been the talking point. And John Cook said after the match, this is not something that he shared during the season, but he said that this team played at a higher level. Statistically, they use internal measurements that we don't use they're not looking at hitting percentage necessarily or some of the other like rudimentary statistics. It's like any sport where you've got your metrics and you chart things your own way. And he said this was the highest performing team that he's ever coached. And it makes sense. The level of play is going to go up through the years. I mean, it's the first I've been to
100%.
I've been to, I think, 9 of these volleyball Final Fours. Now, 5 of them were in Omaha, and the first 3 that I attended were when I was the age of the women on the court. I was in college in like my first year at the Omaha World Herald in the 1990s. Sorry, I almost like really dated myself. I was not in college in the 1980s. Thank you, but I saw Nebraska's first national championship in 1995 at UMass, and it beat Texas. And I think I sat courtside for that one too. I know I did. I don't know if I had quite the seat that I did last night, but it's a different game. It's a completely different level of athlete. Olivia Babcock from Pitt and Andy Jackson from Nebraska are at a level of athleticism that you wouldn't even be able to imagine in 1995. Like, they were the 2 best athletes in the arena last night. No apologies to Harper Murray, who's an incredible athlete herself, but those 2, like I said, you're going to see them in the Olympics sooner rather than later. So
I think you just chalk it up to it's really hard now. I mean, Nebraska hasn't won a national championship since 2017. Their regular appearances in the Final Four, which seems to get tougher and tougher every year. Like, I don't think it's a cakewalk for Nebraska to make it through the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 anymore. Not. It's not that way. So I think it's a credit to the sport that how much deeper it's gotten and how much resources, conferences, athletic programs, whatever, have put into their volleyball programs, because they've seen that they have a chance to make an impact and a chance to be successful. So, and a lot of things have to go right for those programs to do so. But like, people are doing the whole, well, what happened mentally? Like, they choke thing. I mean, I don't know, man. I'll chalk it up to, it's just hard. It's just hard because the other team on the other side is just as good as you. They put just as much into it. They're just as talented. They have just as good a coaching. And that didn't used to be the case 10 years ago.
They were frustrated. Nebraska was frustrated at the end of the 4th set that it couldn't put a ball away to win the match. It had 2 chances, and there was one moment where the ESPN camera crews began to rush onto the court to get video of Nebraska's celebration, and Nebraska thought it had won for a minute when a ball landed out, and the chair official right in front of me called a touch, which was accurate. It wasn't even reviewed. It was a touch. So that's how close it is. It's like a fingertip away from winning it. And that I think is really frustrating for fans. Of course, it's frustrating for the players to see your team get that close. But like, hey, look, Nebraska's played 4 times in the last 8 years, even with that loss last night in the national championship match. There's no team that has done that. Like Texas, which was in the championship, won the championship the last 2 years, isn't here. You have programs like Stanford and Wisconsin that are not here. Stanford hasn't been to this event for a while. Penn State in playing for the championship on Sunday, hadn't been to the Final Four in 10 years. Places like Florida and which should have every advantage imaginable, doesn't get here anymore. So what Nebraska's done with its volleyball program in collecting talent, in building a team, in creating chemistry, in winning close matches. The Huskers neither team on that court had lost a 5-set match this year. Penn State was 4-0, Nebraska was 2-0. When you got to the 5th set, something had to give. And the thing is, Penn State just had the momentum and the energy. It was like a snowball rolling downhill, because of the way the 4th set ended, and the Nittany Lions started that thing hot. And like, they're playing with something. This is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State is playing with a kind of motivation that, I mean, it's awful, that it is dealing with a head coach who is fighting breast cancer through this season, but it's playing with a certain kind of motivation and inspiration in moments like that make the game seem small, that Nebraska, it just can't duplicate. It doesn't want to duplicate. So I would really, really encourage people, you want to criticize them. That's fine. Like, it's sports. They're professional athletes. Like, that's what it is. Their coaches are paid a lot of money. Go ahead and criticize them. But we saw what personal attacks did last year. And I think that's born from a lot of fan frustration because you want your team to win the national championship. The Nebraska players wanted to win the national championship a lot more than any of the fans in the arena or any of the fans at home wanted to. So, like, I would say keep it above board. They're great representatives of the state and of the university.
All right, we'll continue with that conversation, and we'll take a look at the college football playoff, which starts tonight. There's already snow on the ground in South Bend, Indiana. We will hit all those things when we return in the Locked On Nebraska podcast. All right, it's Apper here for Rocket Money. Dude, those subscriptions pile up a little bit. Do you have any subscriptions even that you've forgotten about or that you might be overpaying for? Rocket Money makes it very easy for you to just track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and help lower your bills so that you could grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So it's going to be worth your while, especially around this time. These subscriptions pile up. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on.
All right. And I want to tell you here about Game Time, because basketball season is here, and Game Time makes getting tickets to basketball games much easier. You want to see a Big Ten or a Big East game locally around the state of Nebraska? If that's your thing this winter, this month, still here before Christmas, Game Time can get you into the arena. It offers tickets also for concerts, shows. It's not just sports. Check out the feature of the Game Time app that's called Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of options. After the first of the year, UCLA is coming into Pinnacle Bank Arena. Maybe you want to make plans to see an NBA game coming up soon. Game Time allows you to customize your spot in the basketball arena. I love that you can get curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. Game Time provides seat views before you buy. They've got the super deal, which is a unique feature that you need to examine. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Okay, time for our picks segment. So, Connor, you have perhaps what some would call an insurmountable lead over me in the against the spread portion of our picks. Although I would hesitate to refer to it as that. If the first 15 weeks, if it continues to play out in that way, then I will not catch you. But going into the college football postseason against the spread this year in games that we've picked, I am a dismal 53-64-1. Don't take my betting advice. That would be the takeaway from that. You are 8 games ahead of me, 61-56-1. So I have some ground to make up. Guess what we've got? Guess what we've got today in college football? Today, the first ever on-site home stadium visiting team goes into the den of another team for a college football playoff game in the history of the sport at the FBS level. So we're going to pick these games. We're going to pick a couple of bowl games, select bowl games. I went through the schedule of bowl games over the next week before we get to next Friday's show when we'll pick the Pinstripe Bowl and the New Year's Day bowl games. It's not great. Yeah. I'll just say that. So we'll get to a couple of those, but we are going to start with Friday night. That's tonight, 7 p.m. Central Time on ABC. Number 10 seeded Indiana, 11-1. Kurt Signetti at number 7 in-state opponent Notre Dame. The Irish are 7.5-point favorites in this game. Who you taking?
This is such a fun game. First of all, I'm glad that these two are matching up against each other. We've seen Indiana play in the snow recently. Their most recent game against Purdue was a disaster, and they threw up like 1 million points, but that was against one of the worst teams in power conference football. If we are doing the confidence ratings on these 4 games this weekend, so the 1 game tonight and then the 3 games on Saturday, the first round college football playoff games, and you're asking me to pick a winner and then attach a confidence rating to it.
Yeah, that would be a good fun exercise.
This is the game I am least confident in out of the 4. I am going to default to Notre Dame. And I think I'm just going to basically, kind of pick winners in this thing. I'm going to go with the better team. So I'll take Notre Dame. I don't love the number, and I'm not confident that they're going to win. So, give me the Irish here, just a little bit more physical and complete.
It's funny you say that about just picking winners, because I'm looking back at week 15 in the championship season, and these were the last games that I just graded last night. I had a nice 3-5 week. It looks like you went 4-4, and I'm trying to see if there was a cover, an underdog that actually covered the spread in that game,
but didn't win
in that week. Yeah, right. That didn't just win outright. It was basically pick the winner and you won. SMU, Clemson won and was an underdog. Oregon covered the spread. Georgia won and was an underdog. Arizona State covered the spread. Boise State covered the spread. So I don't know. That's kind of what it is in postseason football. Maybe that'll get completely thrown on its head, and my theory based on 1 week of of the postseason is going to be completely out the door. And I'm scared of that 0.5 point on the back end of the 7, because I could see Notre Dame winning a 31-24 game. I think we underestimate Notre Dame a bit, because when the Irish lost to Northern Illinois early in the season, and kind of became a little bit of a sarcastic talking point, like, oh, the Northern Illinois coach wanted to get with Notre Dame and tell them what the Huskies, is that what they are, what they did to beat the Irish and whatever. They've been very, very good. Notre Dame has since that point, clearly undefeated, and I think Notre Dame is a dark horse in this entire playoff. So I'm picking the Irish. To win. I think they will cover. Our second game, this is Saturday, 11 a.m. on TNT and Max. Number 11 SMU going north. This will be cold. It will likely be snowy at 6-seeded Penn State. Nittany Lions are an 8.5-point favorite. You just going with the team that wins again?
Yeah. If we go back to that confidence scale over the 4, this is my most confident. Penn State's going to win this game by multiple touchdowns. I really believe that. I think, they're too talented. Their defense is too good. I know that the whole talking point about them over the last couple of weeks has been their backup quarterback, who they do use, who's in the transfer portal before the college football playoff. But I watched that SMU Clemson game. I was not impressed by either team. That'll give you a hint on the next game we pick too. Give me Penn State.
Oh, well, I'm going to take SMU. All that said, I'm taking SMU.
That's so fast, my friend.
Here's what I think happens. Penn State's up by 13, 14 points late in the game. It's in hand. SMU scores a touchdown to get a backdoor cover. That's my call.
I thought we were picking winners. What happened?
Well, I decided against picking a winner. Penn State's going to win the game, but I need to make up ground on you, so I'm taking SMU to cover. All right, we got in the third game of the college football first round, number 12 seeded Clemson sneaks into the college football playoff. You want to hate on Dabo Swinney? You want to talk about Dabo Swinney being behind the times? Dabo Swinney's going to say, hey, I'm in the college football playoff. We just won the ACC. And guess what? Now I'm taking guys from the transfer portal. Clemson's taking players from the transfer portal. College football has been completely flipped upside down when Dabo's going into the transfer portal. So the Tigers go into Austin, Texas. Going to be a nice day. The only one of those games where it's going to be likely a nice day. I would assume it's going to be a nice day on Saturday in Austin.
60s. Yeah.
All right. Longhorns are an 11.5-point favorite. This one, 3 p.m. on TNT Max.
Yeah, Clemson taking a transfer, maybe the most surprising story of the week. And this was a week that basically we declared that eligibility is fake. So, wild times out there.
Thank you, Diego Pavia.
Yeah. I don't love Texas. But I do not even like Clemson. I mean, I've watched them play like 3 or 4 times this year, and it's just not, they've never really impressed me, whether it's their offense or their defense. They just seem kind of mid all the way around. Give me Texas, even though I don't love their body of work and the times that I've seen them this year. But I do think they're better.
I think this one could be like 34-10. Interesting. Now Texas is going to go with Quinn Ewers at QB, right? I mean, I haven't heard anything otherwise. I know there's been a lot of talk this month about next year and what happens. Like they have to go to Arch Manning next year. Isn't that the case? Like if Ewers wants to play another year of college football, it's going to have to be at a different school. But at least that's like what seems to be out in the blowing in the winds of college football chatter. Maybe it's completely wrong, and Quinn can come back and QB the Longhorns again. You imagine Arch Manning sitting on the bench for 3 consecutive years. I don't know about that. I'm taking Texas. Yeah, Texas to win big. He's like the greatest job in the NFL, being a backup quarterback. That's not the greatest job in college football. No. Just to be clear, and a Manning doing it. I think Arch gets into this game because it's enough of a lopsided affair that Texas is going to cruise right on. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention about that Indiana-Notre Dame game that we talked about at the beginning of this, the winner of that game is going to play Georgia. Speaking of quarterbacks, Georgia, it looks like, is going to be without quarterback Carson Beck, who is exploring elbow surgery and might miss Georgia's entire stay in the college football playoff, which might be one game if Carson Beck is on the bench and the Dogs have to play Notre Dame in a neutral site coming up in the week ahead.
Fascinating.
All right. Final game, the real UT, Tennessee, 9th seeded in the CFP, is headed to the Horseshoe. I will be there to watch that on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Central Time on ABC. Buckeyes are a 7.5-point favorite. Too bad Gus Johnson will not be there for that one. But
you can get a little Gus in there. Buckeyes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Feeling it.
So fascinating game. This is going to be really, really fun to watch. You got the weather. It'll be cold. The Tennessee fans making the 5-hour drive up north to Columbus to take over the stadium, and
the coldest game ever for Tennessee, something along those lines.
Oh, for sure. And apparently I've heard that Tennessee has a propensity for flag planting. So
really,
this will be great if that comes true. With all of the Ohio State just bad juju,
burn the stadium down if that happens.
Yeah, no doubt. with all the Ohio State bad juju over the last couple of weeks, I'm still going to take the Buckeyes here. I just think they're better. I just think they're the better team. It's probably a defensive game, but give me Ohio State.
SEC. I'm taking Tennessee, and I'm taking Tennessee to win. So I'm sticking with the strategy here that I deviated from on one of those games, the SMU game. I'm just taking the team I think is going to win, and of course Tennessee is going to cover. I think that a lot of this has to just do with the feel around the program, the hangover that Ohio State has had, like getting away from it's like it's over. Our goal all along, says Ryan Day, was just to make the college football playoff. We had to get into the college football playoff. We want to win a national championship. Meanwhile, like your fans are in, disarray because you lost to Michigan yet again. So I like Tennessee to go into the horseshoe and win. All right, very quickly, 2 other bowl games. These are the 2 biggest, the 2 that I could pick that were the most significant of the next week. Friday, that's today, 2:30 p.m. ESPN 2. You've got the Gasparilla Bowl, Tulane at Florida or versus Florida. The Gators are a 10.5-point favorite with quarterback DJ Lagway, the true freshman.
No Darren Mensah for Tulane. Give me Florida.
Yeah, I'm going Florida also. That's quick enough. That's all we need to spend talking about that game. Yeah. And then Thursday, the day after Christmas, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, the Rate Bowl from Florida. This is one that's from Phoenix. This is one that Nebraska thought it may have been in at one time. Rutgers instead is in this game out of the Big Ten, playing Kansas State, and the Cats are a 6.5-point favorite. I don't know the situation with the rosters of either of these 2 teams, so I'm just going to base it on what I've seen from them. I'll let you go first.
All right, give me K-State. I like Rutgers. They had a fine year, although a bad ending. I imagine there will be roughly 20,000 K-State fans who make the trip to Phoenix. Give me the Power Cats.
Yeah, kind of like what Nebraska fans would like to do if their team can get back to a bowl and in warm climates. They will invade Phoenix. I'm sure that Christmas in the Valley of the Sun for K-State fans. So enjoy that if you are a Power Cat. All right, when we come back, Nebraska's coordinators, Dylan Raiola and Ty Robinson, had some things to say on Thursday on a Pinstripe Bowl production. We will get into that after this. All right, as you know, it's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins Saturday, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon, 11 Central. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Do not miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max.
And I want to tell you a little bit about our friends from Home Field. It's time to gear up for the holidays, a perfect gift for the holidays. And of course, the college football playoff with Home Field. Home Field Apparel, of course, the exclusive apparel provider of Locked On Nebraska. You've heard of them. You know them. They make your favorite shirt worn by college football fans, made for college football fans. And it's not just Nebraska apparel. Let's say you adopt another team around the playoff. That's okay as well. They're pretty much guaranteed to have them too. Over 180 schools available, and the number is growing by the day. I cannot think of a better gift around the holidays than some awesome officially licensed gear representing your favorite college football team. Head to homefieldapparel.com today, and we got a code for you, GBR24, and you could get the code and buy other teams' merchandise if you'd like to. GBR24. I don't know why you'd do that, but it's an option for you. You get 15% off of your first purchase. Once again, how good is that for gift season? Homefieldapparel.com, code GBR24, 15% off your first purchase. We're here to help you make that holiday shopping a little less stressful because you know the quality and the styles of Home Field are fantastic. Homefieldapparel.com today, homefieldapparel.com. All right, final segment of the week. We'll get it out of here pretty quick. Nebraska been waiting on a big boom in the portal for Nebraska, and they may have got that yesterday. Isaiah Hunter from Cal is the newest portal. I guess returned, I suppose, for Nebraska.
Be a portal portal product,
portal guy, portal man.
Portal delivery.
He had
walked out of the portal right into Lincoln.
Yeah, he had 40 catches last year in his freshman season at Cal for nearly 600 yards. A productive freshman campaign for him.
Big bodied receiver. Yeah,
one of the highest, highly sought after guys out there. So a big pickup for Nebraska. We also heard from the coordinators yesterday at the Pinstripe Bowl press conference, Dylan Raiola, who had to explain that he was never really looking to transfer and all that. Any takeaways from the hour-long Pinstripe Bowl show yesterday?
Dylan said it was unfortunate that he had to make the statement. I believe that was last week, that he was all in on Nebraska, and I agree with him. I think we talked about this right before Dylan did that, when he put the message out on Instagram that he was, it wasn't like I am staying. It was just it was a graphic with showing it, reiterating his support. I think it's a bad precedent for players of a certain visibility level, quarterbacks, star players, to have to reaffirm their support every year to a school. I understand why it happens, because they're all free agents, but you run the risk then of, when you don't see that message, just believing that player is gone. So we heard that from Dylan Raiola. We heard from, as you said, the coordinators. I thought John Butler's descriptions about what Nebraska is going to do with its defense, with a pass rusher like Williams Nwaneri out of the portal, were interesting. Maybe hinting that you're going to see more four-man front, more traditional four-man front. We've talked about that on this show. And Holgorsen discussing the need for an offensive lineman out of the portal. I thought the tone in his voice picked up when that comment was made about, we need to get some guys.
We need to get one. Yeah, we need to get a couple. He mentioned that they had a couple on campus during the Zoom call on Thursday.
They brought him on the call. Hey guys.
But he was like, yeah, we need them. We're operating with very few out there right now. So and I think they'll end up doing that, but it gets some gonna continue to work on some starter quality type of players that Nebraska needs out of the transfer portal. Still a couple of holes to fill in that regard. But basically now, and I thought it was interesting to hear Holgorsen, talk about this yesterday. He was like, well, we've had 9 practices and we really haven't thought much about the bowl game yet. Which was super.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, they will start to turn their attention to that. They'll take off on Monday for New York.
Yes,
and head out there and practice all week, and then it'll be full Boston College from there. But yeah, you're trying to balance all the recruiting mode and the bowl mode as the moment.
I thought it was interesting to hear him talk about Thomas Fidone, and I asked about Fidone because we haven't heard about Thomas. And when Matt Rule talked about the tight ends last week, he didn't mention Thomas. And I think it was more because Rule was speaking about the development that the players in that room are making. And you have a lot of young guys or players who haven't played as much at Nebraska. And he's excited about the potential. And Fidone, of course, is a veteran in the program. And it seems that that's all it was, because Holgorsen said that Fidone has been practicing this month like it's training camp all over again. Like, that's how motivated he is. And that may be because Thomas has got a decision to make, not about anything other than whether he's going to try to make a run at the NFL after this bowl game. So something to watch there, and I'd be interested to see how he comes out and plays at Yankee Stadium.
All right. Well, Mitch, have fun this weekend. That'll be a heck of a deal in Columbus on Saturday night.
It will be, and I should probably still be somewhere in a hotel room like this when we talk for our Monday show, and then I'll be back in Nebraska after that.
All right, so that's what we have to look forward to next week. We'll still be bringing you a full slate of of shows, even over Christmas. Appreciate you all listening and making this your first listen. We have your second listen all lined up for you as well. That's the Locked On Big Ten podcast, where Craig puts the Big Ten first. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts.